The Africa Service Medal is a South African campaign medal for service during the Second World War, which was awarded to members of the Union Defence Forces, the South African Police and the South African Railways Police. The medal was originally intended for service in Africa, but it was later extended to cover service anywhere in the world. Institution. The duration of the Second World War in Europe was from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 8th of May 1945, while in the Pacific Theatre it continued until the 2nd of September 1945. In addition to the British campaign medals which were awarded to combatants from all members of the British Commonwealth, several Commonwealth nations augmented the British awards by establishing their own service medals, all distinctive in design, purpose and criteria. For South Africa, the Africa Service Medal was instituted on the 23rd of December 1943 by King George VI in his capacity as South African Head of State, and was awarded in addition to the British Campaign Stars and Campaign Medals which were awarded for the war. Award criteria. The Africa Service Medal was awarded to members of the Union Defence Forces, the South African Police and the South African Railways Police. To qualify for the medal, a member of those services must have volunteered for war service outside South Africa and must have served there between South Africa's declaration of war on the 6th of September 1939 and the 2nd of September 1945 inclusive, continuously for 30 days of part-time for a total of 18 hours. As the name indicates, the medal was originally intended for service in Africa up to the defeat of the Axis forces in North Africa in 1943, but it was later extended to cover service anywhere in the world right up to the end of the war in the Pacific on the 2nd of September 1945. Union Defence Force Land Force served in East Africa in 1940 and 1941, North Africa from 1941 to 1943, Madagascar in 1942, and Italy in 1944 and 1945. The South African Air Force served in all those campaigns mentioned, as well as in West Africa from 1943 to 1945, Sicily in 1943 and Southeast Europe from 1943 to 1945, and provided air support to the Warsaw Uprising in 1944. Naval forces and seconded personnel served in the Mediterranean from 1941 to 1945, Greece in 1941, the Arctic convoys from 1941 to 1945, the Java Sea in 1942, Sicily in 1943, the Indian Ocean from 1943 to 1945, the D-Day invasion in 1944, and the Pacific in 1945. Order of wear. Campaign medals and stars are not listed by name in the order of wear prescribed by the British Central Chancery of the Orders of Knighthood, but are all grouped together as taking precedence after the Queen's Medal for Chiefs and before the Polar Medals, in order of the date of the campaign for which awarded. In the order of wear of the Second World War campaign medals, the two British campaign medals and the Africa Service Medal take precedence after the 9 campaign stars, of which the order of wear was determined firstly by the respective campaign start dates, secondly by the campaign's duration and thirdly by the dates of institution. The 1939 to 1945 star, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 2nd of September 1945, the full duration of the Second World War. War. The Atlantic Star, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 8th of May 1945, the duration of the Battle of the Atlantic and the War in Europe. The Arctic Star, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 8th of May 1945, the duration of the Battle of the Atlantic and the War in Europe. The Aircrew Europe Star, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 5th of June 1944, the period until D-Day-1. The Africa Star, for the 10th of June 1940 to the 12th of May 1943, the duration of the North African Campaign. The Pacific Star, for the 8th of December 1941 to the 2nd of September 1945, the duration of the Pacific War. The Burma Star, from the 11th of December 1941 to the 2nd of September 1945, the duration of the Burma Campaign. The Italy Star, from the 11th of June 1943 to the 8th of May 1945, the duration of the Italian Campaign. The France and Germany Star, from the 6th of June 1944 to the 8th of May 1945, the duration of the Northwest Europe Campaign. The Defense Medal, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 2nd of September 1945, the full duration of the Second World War. The War Medal 1939 to 1945, from the 3rd of September 1939 to the 2nd of September 1945, the full duration of the Second World War. The War Service Medals, which were established by individual Commonwealth nations to augment the British Second World War campaign medals, all take precedence after the War Medal 1939 to 1945 in the respective orders of wear of those countries. These medals are, in order of date of institution, the Canadian Volunteer Service Medal, instituted on the 22nd of October 1943. The Africa Service Medal, instituted on the 23rd of December 1943. The India Service Medal, instituted on the 6th of June 1946. The New Zealand War Service Medal, instituted on the 6th of June 1946. The Australia Service Medal 1939 to 1945, instituted in November 1949. South Africa with effect from the 6th of April 1952, when a new South African set of decorations and medals was instituted to replace the British awards used to date. The older British decorations and medals applicable to South Africa continued to be worn in the same order of precedence, but, with the exception of the Victoria Cross, took precedence after all South African orders. Decorations and medals awarded to South Africans on or after the date of the official British medals which were applicable to South Africans. The Africa Service Medal takes precedence as shown, preceded by the War Medal 1939 to 1945, succeeded by the King George V Coronation Medal. Description: the medal was struck in silver to a design as suggested by Field Marshal Jan Smuts. It is 36 mm in diameter and 3 mm thick at the raised rim, and is affixed to the suspender by means of claws underpinned through the upper edge of the medal. Obverse: the obverse depicts a map of Africa, surrounded by the name of the medal in English and Afrikaans. Africa Service Medal at left hand, AFRICADIENSMEDALJ at right. Reverse: the reverse depicts a prancing springbok against a landscape background, with the medal number impressed at the bottom on the rim. Ribbon: the ribbon is 32 mm wide and orange red, the color of the shoulder flash worn by South African volunteers, edged in 3.5 mm wide green and yellow bands. The green and gold are the Springbok rugby sporting colors which were adopted as the Defence Force colors. South African Second World War ex-servicemen referred to the ribbon of this medal as Umasgata. Smuts was the nickname of the wife of the South African Second World War era Prime Minister, Field Marshal Marshal Jan Smuts. The nickname was a tribute to her unstinting efforts to supply the South African troops with home comforts. King's Commendation. The King's Commendation, denoted by a bronze king protea flower emblem, was authorized to be worn on the ribbon of the Africa Service Medal and could be awarded for valuable services in connection with the Second World War. The commendation could be awarded posthumously and was the equivalent of a mention in dispatches, but for services rendered away from the battlefield. The full-size emblem worn on the ribbon with the medal is 19 mm high, and the miniature to be worn on the ribbon bar is 9 mm high.